All right. Okay. I didn't see you guys. It looks like a low turnout. I picked the one kind of music you don't listen to. Well, you're missing out. You're missing out. You do listen to it, Ring the Bell. You probably like. Oh gosh, my brain. You probably like. Oh, sole mio. Oh, sole mia. Kiss me, my darling. Be mine tonight. For tomorrow may be too late. Kiss me, my darling. Our love won't wait. That is Elvis, but it's also O Sole Mio. All right. Hi, Anil, Mike, ESK, UK Sun, Ben, Jeff, Mexican, already ring the bell. Hey, Hawkeye Man, good day, good day. Spider Razor, David, P. Mooney, Joe, John Morales. I'm feeling fine. I mean, it's raining here, and it's going to be a quiet week because everyone leaves the city. And I'm not complaining, but I don't have any plans. So I'll probably just enjoy it's a bit like, was the movie Encino Man or Soylent Green when Charlton Heston would drive through the empty cities during the day of New York City. Oh, sole mio. Oh, sole mio. Kiss me, my darling. All right, I wanted to put something in your head today, and it's called tax loss harvesting. I simply Googled I Googled tax loss strategies or something like that. And this popped up under Charles Schwab. I went through several others, but I chose this one because it's specific only to this strategy. There's other things you can do, contribute to the maximum to your IRA, give gifts to your grandchildren. Anyway, there's other things, but this is what I wanted to focus on. Tax loss harvesting, which is offsetting capital gains with capital losses, can lower your tax bill and better position your portfolio going forward. Now, for one of my strategies, we're running out of days. For one of my strategies, this is November, this calendar. We've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trading days left for one of my strategies, but this article doesn't talk about that. So we'll just start with this. And here is a true statement. Not every investment will be a winner. When firms like Power Up Lending can hire Gibson Dunn, who represent both sides of the issue, when Jeff Easton and Sam Chung can hide behind the front of the Lynn Partners, and then with a straight face say, hey, we're not selling. We might have syndicated it to someone that is. There are no winners. There's no winners. But anyway, this article says not every investment will be a winner. Fortunately, a losing investment does have a silver lining. You may be able to use your loss to lower your tax liability and better position your portfolio going forward. This strategy is called tax loss harvesting, and it's one of the many tax smart strategies that investors should consider. Tax loss harvesting generally works like this. 1, you sell an investment that's underperforming and losing money. I have the one idea, which I used to have clients do, where they double up now over the next 6 days, and then they sell. They're losing half of the investment, but it's the same idea. Or you just do it this way. Then you use the loss to reduce your taxable capital gains and potentially offset up to $3,000 of your ordinary income. You can do that every year. Finally, you reinvest the money from the sale in a different security. The principle behind tax loss harvesting is fairly straightforward, but it does have some pitfalls. Imagine you're reviewing your portfolio and you see that your tech holdings have risen sharply while some of your industrial stocks have dropped in value. You now have too much of your portfolio exposed to the tech sector. To realign your investments with the preferred allocation, you sell some of your tech stocks and use those funds to rebalance your portfolio. In the process, you end up recognizing a significant taxable gain. This is where tax loss harvesting comes in. If you also sell the industrial stocks, which have declined in value, you could use those losses to offset the capital gains from selling the tech stocks, thereby reducing your tax liability. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. In addition, if your losses are larger than the gains, you can use the remaining losses to offset up to $3,000 of your ordinary taxable income any amount over 3,000 can be carried forward to future tax years to offset income down the road. And I'm not going to bore you with this long ass example, but they give a comparison. We used to have to go to these meetings and they'd always compare the days and the nights. Ugh. It would make yourself, sitting in the back of the room, make you want to, do something drastic. So it's very hard to read, but in investment A here, investment A, you have a $20,000 gain. In B, you have a $25,000 capital loss. Let me see if I can highlight some of that. In the A group, when you have the gain, now remember, this gain can be in the future too, but you might have a $7,000 tax liability for taking a $20,000 gain. Well, then over here, they suggest, what if you had 25,000 in capital losses? And let's go through that. So in this example they're using, if you sold for a $25,000 loss, and it depends on each person's situation, you might save $7,000 in tax liability, this example, because you get to write 20,000 of this loss directly against this $20,000 gain. So you save in this calculation $7,000 in taxes, and you can take $3,000 off your income, which in this example saves $1,000 on your income tax for your income. And then you carry over $2,000 in losses for the future. So by doing this, your potential tax savings are $8,000. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, we don't have these gains this year, but some people do. But you can do it in reverse order. You can do this tax loss harvesting here, and next year when you have a gain, you can have it. But you can have this benefit. But look, it's not insignificant. Taking a $25,000 tax loss could save you $8,000 in one taxable year. And depending on where you allocate the money, maybe you just put it to cash and wait to buy the original stock back, as in my example, in December, this week, these things are going to be like Black Friday. They'll be on sale. You can buy these nags cheaper, and next year they'll become our trusty steeds. Okay, so there's some issues. It doesn't work well. It doesn't work at all in a retirement account. There are some restrictions on using specific types of losses to offset capital gains. A long-term loss would first be applied to a long-term gain, and a short-term loss would be applied to a short-term gain. If there are excess losses in one category, these can then be applied to the gains of either type. When conducting these types of transaction, you should also be aware of the wash sale rule, which states that if you sell a security at a loss and buy the same or a substantially identical security within 30 days before or after the sale, the loss is typically disallowed for current income tax purposes. And then finally, even if you don't have capital gains to offset, tax loss harvesting could help you reduce your income tax liability. And I'll leave it at that. That's my boring lesson of the day. Let's see some of your comments. Let's first go through, let's see how the stocks are trading. Finger motion is $4.09 on 313,000 shares. Logic, I'll tell you that, is 3 cents on 150,000 shares. CAUD, collective audience, is $1.43, down 7 cents on 303,000 shares. GTII is 53.5 cents, up a penny on 224,000 shares. NVOS, I don't know why I have that, but I do. 147, sorry, 147.27 on 550,000 shares. MMAT, 8 cents, 0.0868 on 4.76 million shares. And I think I'll stop it there. So let me God, I didn't bring any water out, but my coffee should help me. Okay. Hey, JCab. Let's see. Here's a question. Do you see Finger rising nicely into the double digits as soon as the tweet, as per that tweet from Ivan Katinko? Oh, you got me. So that earns you a timeout. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, it's raining down here. I didn't see that, Brett. First half of October's FTDs for Finger. I've gotten out of the habit of looking on Twitter because they blocked my account, although now I got it back open. So I guess that's where you saw that. I didn't know that. I'd be interested in what that is. Hey, Donna. Hey, Amby. Amby. Beautiful Amby. Where did you get those eyes? Oh, Amby, don't you see? Don't you weep? Oh, Amby, don't you weep? Your kisses still taste sweet. I haven't had a capital gain. I know. Hey, Brenda. This is good information. Hey, Jordan. Well, I mean, you can Google it yourself, but what I'm trying to do, Jordan, is one of the reasons I'm bringing it up now is during this week, by my calculations, add it up yourself, you could buy more of each of these stocks and then sell the original. It's just one strategy. Some years, because it was a fairly straightforward strategy for back when the market traded like a normal market rather than shooting fish in the barrel for the criminals. It was a fairly straightforward strategy to buy stocks in this week when everybody's on holiday and the tax pressure was on. And then I don't think this calendar, I'll use this. I mean, then you would buy in January, even though this is the wrong, you'd buy it back. Sorry, you bought it in December, you'd sell it in January. It's called the January effect because all those people who were selling in December would buy back into the stocks. But what I noticed, because I did it for a long time, although sometimes I wish I continued doing it for even longer, what I noticed is sometimes the selling happened in the last part of November, just like I'm describing. So sometime the opportunity is in this week. Anyway, so Jordan, I'm just saying that it's time to think about that strategy. There's no need, if you're just selling, there's no need to panic. You'll have plenty of time over the next 6 weeks. But if you're trying to buy now, as I call it, doubling up your position and then selling the losing part, you can do that either in the last week or the last day of December, and you avoid the wash sale rule. People have pointed out that then you might be giving up your long-term status. The answer is yes. But on the other hand, I think those tax losses are valuable. So everybody's got to make their own decision. I said last night that I'm pro-Palestine. No, I didn't. But I happen to see the Palestinians as human beings, not something subhuman. I said I supported the Israeli people, and that 9/11 was a crime, not an act of war. Yes, that's how I see it. Zilbert, you're obviously not a deep thinker, but we went on to declare war against Iraq, who had nothing to do with the attack on the World Trade Center. If you've studied it, Zilbert, as I have, number one, jets, the World Trade Center, and you can, I know you're not a thinker, but you can go look on the web, you can find examples. There was one just inside of London where there was a fire in a tower. Those towers were built to withstand just those kind of crises. There's no way, Zilbert, that jets caused the collapse of the World Trade Centers. And how did building number 7 go down? Anyway, wow, just wow. Well, thank you, Zilbert. And good thing I'm not running the country. It's a good thing. But Zilbert, if I were running the country at that time, I would have used our tremendous intelligence agencies and our deep cover, undercover agents, and I would have gone after every single one of those hijackers, and I would have run them into the ground, rather than, Zilbert, consuming trillions of dollars by bombing deserts, killing and maiming brown-skinned people, women and children, and then assaulting mountains in Afghanistan, which this president just gave away anything we had anyway. Trillions of dollars spreading ill will, killing people, maiming people. For what? For what? Did it strengthen our place in the world? No, Zilbert. And it wasn't an act of war. Those terrorists did not represent a country. No country announced that they were declaring war on us. Criminals, sure. There's criminals running rampant in cities in the United States now. But anyway, thank you, Zilbert, for your well thought. And I really admire the depth of your thinking. You got a powerful intellect, Zilbert. And so you're telling me today is a good day if I have 9,000 in the bank and my dad has 9,000 investing in apartments. I have no idea what that means. You must be a bot. You must be a bot. Can you talk about Finger already? Many of us are down and want some good news. Okay. Zilbert, thanks again for your thoughtful question. Let me see. That's October 2023. Okay, let's see what happens. Here we go. All right, I am not going to print this out. And someday, Zilbert, I will soon, I hope, have a way of splitting my screen and showing you things. But I'm just going to go through the corporate update, which is March 2022. I'll do it quickly. I'm not going to show you every page. That's over a year old. I don't know why they don't have a newer one, but that's what's on their website. And then we'll go over, Zilbert, some of the recent announcements. Martin Shen is the president and CEO of FingerMotion. The business overview for FingerMotion. FingerMotion sets out to improve people's lifestyle through technology and innovative products and services, starting with an enhanced user experience in mobile communications and extending into deeper behavioral analytics built upon a comprehensive set of high quality and relevant mobile user data. FingerMotion was founded in 2016. And there's some stuff right out of MBA class. What are the core businesses for FingerMotion? One, they don't number them, but we'll call it telecommunication products and services. First one, our proprietary universal exchange platform, Pigeonhole's Integration System, PIS, provides seamless integration between consumers and telco providers. Then secondly, SMS and MMS services. We offer discounted SMS and MMS solutions to our corporate partners with efficient review processes. Then a rich communication services. This is a platform they have. Our proprietary RCS, Rich Communication Services, business messaging platform takes advantage of the increased bandwidth of 5G to handle complex transactions. Big data insights, that's the final one they list here. Through their platform, which they've called Sapientus, we have the license to analyze user accounts to build our massive database and demographic data blocks they leave unsaid in the world's largest economy, 1.5 billion people, 1.4 billion people. They go through milestones that are dated. So I'm going to, in other words, they're old. I'm going to skip that. But I'll run through some of them by headline. They signed with China Unicom in 2018. They're still working with them to offer mobile payment and recharge services. In 2018, they launched mobile payment and recharge services to the market. In 2018, they were awarded agreement to become China Unicom's big data analysis partner. And then late in the year 2018, they set up the first online store on Pinduoduo, a payment and recharge service. Then in 2019, they began top-up services for China Mobile and China Telecom. That's in addition to the previous year, China Unicom. They launched SMS and the SMS and MMS business texting. They were awarded an agreement to become China Mobile's big data provider partner, in addition to China Unicom's. They entered into an agreement, this is in 2019, to manage China Unicom Yunnan online flagship stores. They entered into an agreement to manage China Mobile's Sichuan online flagship store. God, I'm stumbling on my words, sorry. In 2020, FNGR set up online stores in Alibaba's Tmall e-commerce platform. They launched Sapientus, which is their big data platform. They signed an agreement for a loyalty program with China Mobile. They moved to the top tier, which is laughable to me, of the OTCQ, which is OTCQX. The over-the-counter markets are just a recipe for fraud, abuse, and destruction of market cap by fronts like Jeff Easton at the Lynn Partners, supplying criminals with toxic convertible notes as cover. Lawyers protect them. The SEC looks the other way. Broker-dealers let it happen. Prime brokers love it for the commission. And then shills come on in their courage and their integrity to support the just massive theft and fraud in the retail markets. Anyway, in 2020, they entered into an agreement with Pacific Life Re. And then in 2021, the final year this presentation talks about, they negotiated a volume-based contract with China Mobile. They entered into a collaboration with Happy Life Insurance. They formed a research alliance with Munich Re, and they uplisted to the NASDAQ. And promptly, Jeff Easton and Lynn Partners clients set about destroying the stock. Okay, growing. One of their goals is to grow existing business. Now, let me just tell you, there's two additive focuses. One, since then, they've purchased the Netflix of Southeast Asia, Zhizhu technology, something like that, and with 100 million users. And they also are going to provide, quote unquote, Apple Care to their clients who use China Mobile, China Unicom, and China Telecom. They are going to grow their business, top up and SMS, which should continue to grow in a strong way with new funding. New funding will funnel our expansion into new device protection plan, Apple Care, build out of the rich communication services, and allow a focus on the big data research and Sapientus with Munich Re and Pacific Life. The mobile protection plan, introducing value-added product and or services to their portfolio. Mobile protection plans, otherwise known for purposes of simplicity as Apple Care, still in its infancy in China, backed by worldwide top 3 device protection plan. That's an insurance company they've worked with. It's launching in April of 2022, targeting 1 million subscribers in the first month and 1 million subscribers per month after launch. Now, this has obviously been delayed while they fought the clients of the Lin Partners. Three province. By the way, everything on this video is in my opinion and in my judgment. Lin Partners is a public entity and advertises, puts its name out there. It's a public figure. So they're going to target three provinces in the initial launch, and then they'll penetrate other provinces in phases. The good news is over the sort of year delay, a little over a year delay, China, instead of bombing deserts and assaulting mountains and squandering trillions of dollars for nothing, China has invested in their infrastructure. And one of those is in the 5G towers and systems. So China over the last year has built out 5G in many more provinces than were available a year ago. All right, in the midterm, they're going to focus on rich communication services. Again, all of this got delayed by the attack on the market cap by the Lin Partners clients or the Lin Partners itself, Jeff Easton. How come every company Jeff Easton funds goes to zero, or they have to fight back? They hire Wes Christian and fight back, and Jeff Easton thrives. How come? So anyway, rich communication services, upcoming messaging technology of the future, riding on the 5G networks. 90 operators have launched rich communication services, attracting about 473 million users as of a little over a year ago, an estimated value for that market of 74 billion US dollars in 2021. They estimate 2 billion users, world's biggest business messaging platform, will be the target market, which should be now. Long term, they're going to focus on Sapientus. That's right now Pacific Life Re and Munich Re. They have done these contracts. This is, about 14 months old. They're going to focus first on healthcare, health insurance, and life insurance in China. Huge market size. China insurance market size is 4.52 trillion yuan. And the health and life insurance size is 3.16 trillion yuan. I think that's 6-1, but let's look. One yuan equals $0.14. So if we just take the insurance market, 4,520 times 0.14. I guess it's a $632 billion market in US dollars. Revenue, they show a revenue chart which is dated. They show a profit chart which is dated. I'll skip it. And that's their presentation, Zilbert. Now let's go to latest news. I know it's hard for you to do this, Zilbert. You're a man of deep thought, and it's hard to find time to go through press releases. So we'll go through the releases that first show up. We'll go in the most recent first. Finger Motion provides update on litigation versus the short-selling research firm. This they filed on October 19th. They filed a federal lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York against Capybara, a firm who recently created, a firm who was recently created and that enjoyed anonymity through various social media postings without any trail to ownership, while antagonizing our retail investment community by posting lewd and unprofessional graphics intended to embarrass the company. After weeks of investigatory work by the company's counsel, as well as cooperation of third parties, Finger is pleased to announce that her attorneys have been successful in identifying the person responsible for the malicious article and now is taking all necessary steps to add that person's name to the lawsuit and serve that individual. Okay. Finger Motion files lawsuit against short-selling research firm. I'm not going to read it because it's related to that one. Then Finger Motion reports Q2 2024, which is this year. I think for some reason China does 2024 now. But anyway, or they call it 2024. Finger Motion, a mobile services and data company, is pleased to report its financial results for the second quarter of fiscal 2024 for the period ended August 31, 2023. To view the full results, please view the company's recent 10-Q filing at the SEC. You'll have to fit that in, Gilbert. All right, we've gone over those earnings. I don't want to spend the time on it here. Going to the next news press releases. Finger Motion responds to short seller report. That's the Capybara, October 3rd. Finger Motion reports Q1 2024 results. Again, Zilbert, you'll have to go to the SEC, but they are pleased to report results ending May 31, 2023. Finger Motion to present at the LD Micro Invitational 13 conference in Los Angeles on June 6 through June 8, 2023. Okay. Okay, I'm skipping some. Finger Motion enters into a cooperation agreement seeking to expand into overseas hardware and terminal business with Migu Video Technology. And it controls a subsidiary, Shanghai Ji Information Technology. You can look that up. Then Finger Motion retires convertible debt totaling over $5 million, eliminating all institutional loans. Finger Motion, a mobile data service company, today reported the company has recently eliminated its remaining convertible debt with Lynn Global Fund 2 LP as a result of conversions by Lynn Global and payments by Finger, which in aggregate totaled over $5 million. They had to hire Wes Christian to get that done. Okay, more financial results. Finger Motion expects strong results in the top-up business after large capital inflows, and sure enough, they went to $12 million in revenue in the second quarter. Their target was $10 million. Then Finger Motion retained shareholder intelligence to assist the Christian Levine Law Group and Warshaw Bernstein in investigation of potential naked shorting, which were the clients of the Lynn Partners. Lynn Partners fought, feet dragging. They did not want Finger to pay off that note in full with penalties. Okay, Munich Re and Finger Motion's InsurTech is subsidiary advanced to the next level of collaboration with deployment of behavioral analytic platform for commercial rollout. And that was announced a few months ago. They went to the benchmark conference. Finger Motion retains law firm to investigate recent market activity. They announced that they're reviewing the trading history from September 1, 2022 to the present, believes that the company may have been the target of a market manipulation scheme involving naked short selling of fictitious shares of its common stock. That's when they went on the NASDAQ. That's when, in my opinion, the Lynn Partners and its and their customers started selling. Finger Motion's subsidiary, Zhuji Information and Sunningcom.com expand top-up service to major e-portal commerce portal. Now, that was October of 2022. I'm going to stop there. That's a summary of their press releases. Now, Zilbert, you're gonna want to know what's the news with Univest that was supposed to happen by the 17th. I never heard there was any. I heard Ham say on a call three or so weeks ago that he thought something was going to come out news, but he didn't. He said he didn't know what it was. He speculated, and sure enough, news did come out. It just wasn't the dramatic news that everyone was looking for some reason. Then you're going to ask, what is Univest? When are they going to come in? I have no idea. I don't even know if they're going to do a deal. My own opinion, Zilbert, is we've got 6 weeks left in this year. I find it highly unlikely that there'll be anything that dramatically changes the price of Finger Motion stock as it comes to news announcements. Okay, so then Zilbert, Ham and Tom Rock have followed the stock, as have I, but I don't have their intense professional institutional eyes, and they believe there's over a 400 million counterfeit share position sells in Finger. Now, there's a gentleman that I speak with who was high up on the American Stock Exchange. He says it's impossible. All right, so Zilbert, you can pick from 0 to 400 million. You can go to 10 million or 20 million counterfeited, or you could go to what looks like selling pressure that was fake over the last 90 days or 6 months. Call it 40 million, 50 million. Come up with your own number. On the other side, Ham points out that the action by the shorts shows shorts trapped. He's told you that he has information, not officially, that the company is now profitable in earnings. He's got information from prime brokers that Finger is in trouble. The shorts are in trouble with Finger. But obviously, the ongoing fraud has taken it from $8 down to $4. We are trying to, one, catch, if possible, a short squeeze. Two, fight fraud. And the fraud is massive. It's like fighting a wave or fighting an avalanche. And then three, I think Finger Motion, I think I've just shown you, has a big platform. Now, I wish I could reach it. It's over in that stack over there, so I could show you, Zilbert, because I know it's hard for you to find. On September 11th, Finger Motion published that they have filed a shelf registration for $300 million raise. And within that, they did the sub filing for $25 million. That was a Monday. That Thursday, they filed the 8K notifying the world. 2 weeks later, because the Shorts and the Boo Birds and guys like you were on Twitter saying, oh my gosh, delusion, delusion. Paul Revere, the British are coming, the British are coming, the British are coming, but I'm riding the horse. I don't have to fight anybody. And I'll go down in history while everyone else stands and actually fights the interlopers. So the company announced in a press release that they do not intend to raise any money down at these price levels. So how do you mix that in your head, Zilbert? I know you got big issues to think about. So there's, the Picayune kind of getting your head wrapped around what a $300 million shelf financing, possibly with the help of $150 billion investment bank could mean. It could mean nothing. It could mean nothing. Maybe it was just a weekend fling in Memory Hotel, or it could mean that Univest is working on a joint venture. It could be Univest has a portfolio company or companies they want to combine to Finger. It could be maybe they're going to arrange, I'm making this up, but I'm just, why would you file such a large shelf registration? Maybe they're going to distribute Sapientus to shareholders and simultaneously do a fundraise with Munich Re or Pacific Re or both and bring in Univest investors. Nobody knows. Nobody knows the timing. No one can imagine. My opinion, Zilbert, nothing happens until next year. Why? You've got Thanksgiving. You've got December in general. You've got Christmas holidays. You've got New Year's holidays. Every year, the Chinese holidays move with the moon, but you've got Chinese New Year potentially. I just think, Zilbert, nothing's going to happen by year end. So now, having said that, I think Finger is my number one stock to hold and to take advantage of adding to and building your position. With that, I'm going to stop my discussion. Hello? Yeah, I am. Okay. The Voice.
I only have a few minutes today. I've taken my son to the movies to see Napoleon, so I'm inside a movie theater. I'm waiting. It starts in 15 minutes. Anyway, I'm getting feedback from our friends at the law enforcement, and they are finally realizing what we say, that this is a massive problem. And hold on a second. And they are working on it. And I'm preparing a new set of information that I'm going to pencil down or drill down to Finger Motion, the GTII, and the MMTLP. I'm going to show them exactly how the crime occurs. And, they know now that it's in all the stocks, but I'm going to drill it down to make sure they understand what's going on in these names. And my point is that we always want to get the low-hanging fruit before we go up the ladder and get everybody else. I think once they make an arrest on the smaller boys, that the big boys are just going to run, and the game would be over. All right, so that's the game plan. I have work cut out for the next few days to get that done. And I believe this is going to really ramp up shortly. And my game plan is to get them to put a press release out, let the world know that counterfeiting of the U.S. equity markets will not be tolerated, and that there will be, if you are caught doing it, there'll be jail time for counterfeiting the currency. That's where it stands right now. The stock, as you can see, finger motion, which I'm not looking right now, it's been bouncing around between 405 and 425, I guess. This is how the shorts try to do. This is a way for them to try to cover. You saw them lay into it at 666. Remember that number we kept posting?
Yeah, and then they were at 555 for a while. It's weird.
But they have these numbers, whatever it is. That's their message. You know, their game plans. They speak in code. And then they attacked it down. All right, the short number went to 3.3 million. Now it's down below 1.5. I don't know what it is today. I'll find out in the next couple of days. So they smash it down really quick, relentless. And what they do then, after they think they took it down enough, they come back and scoop it up. They may scoop it up and take it back up real fast, because then people that are in it will be happy to break even and run away, get me out, I've lost the 50 cents, and that's their mentality. How do I know that? Because I did that. I was in stocks that had big shorts in it. When the stocks collapsed, when we wanted to cover, we would run in real quick and then try to scoop up all the people that wanted out. And that's how you start to cover your stock. So if we shorted it at 60 and it's 45, I would run it back up to 50 to scoop up all the people that wanted out. I just lost money in it. And that's a way to get people to come out of it again. The trick is that when it does that, it's either you're here for the duration, because at that point, that's where it gets tricky, where these guys may attack it down again, or it may just rip and go on forever. But that's the pattern that they use. When I did it, I was covering stocks for real short, so I know that we took it back up. And once we were done covering, we were done. I never looked at it again. These guys are in the stocks till the end. They're not going away. They're really trapped. They have no choice. So I don't know how long they're going to stand here, but we're going to bring law enforcement, which no other stock has law enforcement. I'm sick and tired of watching the MMTLP fight against the SEC through Congress. Someone in Congress has got to step up and really smack these guys. They're doing it in a nice way. They always thank Chairman Gensler for his, great work. But the guy doesn't answer one question. I can't watch the videos anymore. I see the letters to him. How does the SEC never respond? It's just remarkable that no one can get an answer from them. So we're going to law enforcement. I am using all that information to show them how much the SEC is running interference, for the bigger players. But, that's something that, that's going to be harder to explain to law enforcement. But when they do want to go down the rabbit hole, I'll show them that more information. Right now, we have a short, distort, and we have some big players that are shorting these names, and we want to carry them out. GTII, I saw some nice buyers today around in the stock. Again, same patterns. They knock it down enough. Again, they're going to try to buy back or wash the stock back and forth. Yesterday's action in the stock was $1.2 million. I told you most of that buying was fake. I wrote down, I think it was 700,000, in my opinion, was stocks that were trading back and forth. I had a friend that was bidding 414. So I think he said 10,000 or something like that. And he said 60,000 shares printed around him. 60. So in a little period, 60,000 shares were washed. So I'm saying that the day was 700,000. That was 60,000 within a few minutes that they washed. You don't think it's a lot, but it adds up. Every few minutes they start washing these trades. 3,000, 2,000, 3,000. Before you know it, it's 50, 80,000 shares. And that's how they create the volume. There's no selling in the stock, as you can see today. There's only a little manipulation, but there's no selling. People aren't running out to blast out 10 or 20,000 shares. There's no one doing that. And the stock tells you that. Do you have any questions, William?
Well, a couple. I forgot one. There's a few people saying basically that we were promised a sure thing this summer and now it's nothing. I don't remember ever
Well,
promising
listen,
a sure thing.
I can promise you everything. What I want you to do is write down that I promised you, go to the SEC, knock on their door like we did, and get the promises that we promised you. That's it. Lock us up. What do you want me to tell you? This is fraudulent activity. If you have a gun, go to Lynn Partners and knock yourself out. You can get it done in a minute. Just go do yourself. I'm not going to jail for you. There's criminals here. I've been doing this 24 years. 24 years. So anyone who's crying, and I got it, you've been here a year, you've been here a year and a half, you've been here through the summer. I can't stop this. I'm doing everything in my power. I've been doing this 24 years. That's how hard it is. 24 years.
Did you have hair when you started?
I had, my hair used to be, it was flowing, like George Costanza used to say. It was flowing.
I have a question, which is my question, not anybody else's. Could you go back over what dynamics it would take to cause a squeeze? Because yesterday you said you didn't think it needed Univest. All the ingredients are there for upward
Everything
pressure.
Is here. I agree 1,000%. If someone wants to run up the hill and spend millions and millions of dollars trying to buy all the shares you can to bust them, God bless you. Good luck. All right. I never knew what was the breakout. We knew $7 was deadly. They kept trying to hold it down there. Then it became $6. So I don't know exactly who's giving them leverage, who's lending them money. I don't have those answers. The only thing we can tell you about those answers is that you can see it, when they're starting to wince with pain, and you can see the numbers, right? You can visualize it. You can actually see that if it goes past this spot, they're in this big trouble. That's why they don't let it go past these spots. So if Univest or anybody else wants to give it a shot, I'm always been a firm believer of accumulation. If people want to charge in and do it, I'm all for you. You want to knock yourself out? I don't have the bank account to do this. It's just massive that they can keep selling counterfeit shares. It will come to an end. These guys can't do it forever. But the one thing that can really end it is law enforcement. And I'm telling you right now, we are at the highest level with law enforcement in the United States. The people that guard the president and go after counterfeits, we're in their camp. That I can promise you. You can come to me and say, and sue me for it. I can get you an affidavit that I'm speaking to them. I can get people to verify that I'm speaking to them, if that floats your boat. So if you think we're pulling your fucking leg and we're doing this as a joke, you get another thing coming. All right. So anybody who wants to step into that arena and call this as bullshit, I have proof. I know who I'm talking to. There are shareholders that introduced me to them, so you can take a walk as far as that goes. I'm doing everything I can. Whatever state you live in, go find the Secret Service in your state and go bring the problem to them. Help out. You want to end it in the period you want to end it? Go to the Secret Service and tell them they're counterfeiting. Knock yourself out. Pick a state. I don't care what state you're in. They're all over the place. A shareholder called me this morning. He was working out in the gym. And the guy he works out with, he asked the guy, what do you do for a living? The guy said he was the Secret Service. Our friend couldn't believe it. And he owns 1 million shares of FNGR. He couldn't believe it that the guy was Secret Service. And the guy told him that they don't do anything that's really exciting except guard presidents and counterfeiting. And our friend said to him, boy, do I have something for you. So that's someone who's working an angle by accident. They're among us. Just ask your friends. The Secret Service, they're here to stop counterfeiting of U.S. financial instruments. That's the game. It's taken me 24 years to think about this. 24 years. That shows you what an idiot I am, that I thought I could beat them just fighting back. Well, you know what? We can't. We need law enforcement. And the law enforcement that I'm speaking to doesn't give a shit about the SEC or anybody else. They go by their own. Their job is counterfeiting. Protect presidents and counterfeiting. That's what they do. I posted it 50 times. So that's the best I can tell you on that. Go ahead. Anything
Um,
else?
I don't really see. There's some questions about what people are having for Thanksgiving dinner. I know you're having pasta.
I told you that, right? I did,
Yeah,
right?
you told everybody.
Right, I keep forgetting. But listen, everyone, I posted before on Twitter before I left. The most important thing is your health, your family, your friends. You know, if you have those things, you're way ahead of the game. Just think of the short sellers. They are going to be living in fear. The desperation by the shorts in finger motion is beyond fear. No one attacks stocks like that unless they're dead. They know they're trapped. They need to cover and they're squirming. Okay. I've said before, the stock has a value at $5 minimum from benchmark, not by me. And benchmark did their report before the company reported their revenues doubled. So if it's doubled, so if the number was 5, it's got to be 8, 10 is their new line. Who's selling it down to 4? Nobody I know. Fundamentals in the end always win out. The company has the money. Go watch the videos, see what the company says, go read their reports. The company's attacking the short and distort gang, Capybara and Benzinga, for posting that. Let the lawyers handle that. It's very different than West Christian because they're attacking the website and the authors of these fake short distorts. Okay? I sent it to the enforcement agencies. I highlighted the short and distort. I put in there the press releases, the actual fake reports, everything in there, and the company's announcement about the real revenue. So I showed them the short and distort. I showed them how it works, everything about it. That's part of the crime. I told them to use the short reports as a cover so that they can attack and bait, and then they all blame the short report or the report saying, this company missed its earnings. That's why I shorted it. So if anybody calls them in, that's what they all say. So the pattern, again, Richard, it's not legal advice, it's the same pattern all the time. But after a while, they short it. And my older brother says, even a shitty stock has an update. We've been down 16 or 17 days in a row. And the only reason we're down is by ruthless selling by criminals. Nothing else.
I agree.
Anyway, well, I'm going to go watch the movie Napoleon with my son, and I'll be back. And that's all. I had to take a break, and that's what my son wanted to see the movie, so that's what I did.
There's another Napoleon Dynamite. Napoleon Dynamite.
No, Bonaparte. I just came out. He wanted to see it. He's always wanted to see something about Napoleon.
Well, I hope you meet your Waterloo.
I meet my Waterloo.
I don't know.
Anyway, listen, people, I will be back. You'll know when I'm back.
Thank you, Ham.
Nothing has changed. It's getting stronger. I understand the price is down. I bit my tongue too. Believe me, I'm not happy about it. I've been doing this 24 years, and I feel for you. Believe me, if you're here for 2 weeks, this isn't a day trade. You want a day trade, go to NVIDIA. To Tesla, NVIDIA. They move up and down 10, 15 points a day. I'm here for a life-changing event. That's why I'm here. And I've said that 1,000 times. The reason we have a life-changing event is because the SEC has allowed this fraudulent activity, and we're trying to take advantage of it, get rid of them. That's the game. If the SEC wants to protect them, we went to law enforcement to expose it now. That's how we're handling this. And we're not afraid to go. We put the truck in front of the SEC 13 times. I have actually all the videos. I've been taking them off of Twitter, all the old dates of the truck in front of the SEC. And it's amazing all the different stuff we actually said in front of the SEC. Last year, we had a Christmas truck out there thanking the SEC from the short sellers, saying, thank you for letting us rob all the Americans. We put a truck that actually said that last Christmas up there, William. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah.
We couldn't be any more sarcastic than we were putting a truck in front of the SEC and telling them we're the short sellers and we want to thank you. Have a good holiday. I mean, we can't be any more insulting than it is. I have all these links so that law enforcement can click on it and see how hard we fought to get this exposed. And I believe me, if I thought about the Secret Service, I would have thought about it a long time ago, but I did not. hit me in the head one night. So that's what it is. Anyway, I'm gonna go watch my movie. Have a great day and have a good night. I'll speak to you later.
Thank you very much. Everyone thanks you. Have
No
fun.
problem. I got 1 minute. Let me go. Goodbye.
All right.
Call ended.
All right. Okay, let's just go through the prices quickly again. There is, one way for me to change the power of some of the shills, I guess, is not to talk to them, but I don't always recognize who they are. But the other would be for me to talk about other things, which I really am working on. I think what my strategy is to get a monitor which interacts with what I have. And then this overheating and stalling and all of that will be over with. Plus, I'll be able to do split screens, and I guess I'll learn how. All right, so GTII is trading at 52 because, of course, it is. CAUD is trading at 156, down 4, 352,000 shares. This is counterfeiting right in front of people's eyes. It's unbelievable. Logic is probably, well, it's actually slightly up, but it's essentially down. It's 3 cents. And Finger is $4.13, up slightly on 329,000 shares. And then Brenda just asked me about MREO. I have no idea. I don't have charting in front of me, Brenda. 233, Mira Pharmaceutical, Biopharma, yearly high of 239. Yearly low 49 cents. I tell you, this is making, I assume they just made their yearly high, so it's making the highs of the year. That's actually a pretty strong sign. But let's see what headlines they gave a report. My guess is, all right, London, a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company focused on rare diseases, today provided an update. That's boring. All right, interim data from phase 2. University of Alabama. The results demonstrated something. There was no whatever. That's not, whatever that is, it's not going to move the stock. Let me just see if let me go to Yahoo Finance and see what it says. MREO. Brenda, if you have a profit in that trade, I would definitely try to take some of the original money off. But when a stock, look, this is how stocks used to trade before this just avalanche of fraud. But if they make highs, yearly highs, it usually means it's going to go much higher. Okay. Rare announced earnings, but that's not this company. MREO reports on recent phase 2. They're participating in a fireside chat at Cantor Global Healthcare. That's probably pretty good. They had their financial results. Baker Brothers Advisors acquires a significant stake. That's good. You got somebody. I've never heard of Baker Brothers Advisors, but they've done the due diligence, and you can ride their coattails. Let's see their 6 months. First half of 2023 highlighted by significant updates on each of our lead rare disease programs. Their partner is Ultragenics. They got a $9 million milestone payment from Ultragenics. There you go. That's what I was looking for. With cash and short-term deposits of 53 million US dollars, we continue to think we have sufficient runway to fund operations for 2 more years. So I would say that looks like an interesting play. They don't need to go to the criminals. You've got due diligence and acquisition of shares by a third party who should know, and it's making new highs. Maybe you can hang on to it, Brenda, and let your winners run. We're sure short on likes. I hate asking for subscribers and likes. I don't like doing it. But maybe in the new year, when I have a new setup, I'll come up with a way of doing it that's innocuous. I don't know. Apparently, likes translate to cash somehow, but I don't know. That's exactly right, Saberdella. I don't know what it has to do with Australia. You've got the son of the wealthiest person, a woman, Reinhardt, in Australia, as part of Lynn Partners. And ostensibly, they did some business in Australia. But I didn't mean to ban and remove Zilbert. I meant to put him in a temporary timeout. Oh, well. That's the capriciousness of my mouse. I don't know how to get him back, but well, I don't know what advantage there is to do an investigation of Hancock. He's just a spoiled brat kid who's the black sheep of the family and probably doesn't have, or at least vis-a-vis his mother, probably doesn't have all that much money. So he's resorted to crime with the criminals at the Lynn Partners and their clients. That's all my opinion. Everything on the video is my opinion. Hi, Key. I don't know. Augustine, I think part of me believes that the criminals have Finger under control. And this was my gut instinct with AMC and GME a while ago. And that's a nagging thing I have in my head. So a small position in Finger or a large one, I think you have to consider selling 15, 20, 25, 30 if it gets there. Part of it, just part. Take your original money out. On the other hand, Ham is absolutely convinced there's life-changing numbers ahead. And there's a human tendency when we, as we go through life, we really look forward with what we experienced for the last 2 years or so. We don't really do much more than that. So the last 2 years experience is in my head too on finger. So we'll see. We'll see. I think any position is you'll be happy to own. Thank you, John. Well, the thing with it, I don't know anything about ABVC biopharma, but the thing with biotech and biopharma, whatever you want to call it, once they get approval or once something happens, they need to raise money. And if they've already done a deal with the pimps and the drug dealers on Wall Street that give the toxic convertible notes and then the reverse splits, then they have no place to go but to them, because no sane, well thought out investor is going to invest in a stock that you can't understand the cap table. And that's a fact. So when you need to raise money, they just destroy the price. Then the denominator gets destroyed. And who cares if it's a multi-billion-dollar industry or their contract is worth $200 million if when the company goes to get money, it translates into 5 billion new shares. I'm making it up. Hey, Pecos Bill. We should talk maybe after Thanksgiving. We can talk about MMTLP and the oil down there in Texas, just to change the subject, because I'm tired of both of answering the same questions, but also I just think every single stock that you guys mentioned, other than the one Brenda said, maybe MREO is different, that we have across, if we had a stable of racehorses for the next 6 weeks, they're going to be fatigued and they're not going to run much of a race. Next year, maybe. I actually have one possible exception to that, and that's CAUD. I don't get me wrong. CAUD's share price might be in the control of the criminals right now, but you've got a stock that something like 25 million shares were sold, driving the price down, that at the beginning of last week to the middle, or are we already much further? Let's say 2 weeks ago, when it was, when it was trading as ASPA. I think the shareholders vote was on the 23rd or the 23rd. So shortly thereafter, they only had 41,555 shares out, according to the filing with Edgar. And somehow, and the stock went to 38, it was sitting at 25. Somehow they sold millions and millions of shares when there were only 40,000 shares that existed. And in Gary Gensler's level playing field, how come retail couldn't sell? Because it's all set up to cheat you. Anyway, and then NASDAQ stopped trading because there were so few shares in the company. And then that Friday, thereabouts, that Friday and Monday, it changed its name and they started selling millions and millions of more shares. I think they've sold between 20 and 25 million shares, which do not exist. And as best I can calculate, roughly 3.5 million shares were distributed to us as part of the deal. And even of that 3.7 or whatever it is, 3.6, even of that, I would say 2.5 to 3 million shares are closely held, and they're not being sold, boy, and they're not being lent out. And I don't think 1.6 million of those shares have yet to be, or 1.4 have yet to be distributed. but I can't know the answer. So you've got, let's call it 3.4, and then you've got the 1.6 that was issued to this front for criminal hedge funds. 1.6 million, 3.4, that's 5 million. I rounded down, so let's call it 5.5 million shares, most of which I would say 3 million of that is closely held and it's not trading. The hedge funds say they haven't sold yet. So what are they trading? What's being sold? No one's curious about that. No one. Well, I submit to you what's coming for CAUD. Although I think the price has been destroyed, I think the criminals are in charge. But I think what's coming is senior, talented ad tech, martech executives are going to get to work soon, and it'll be announced, I think. Also, Brent had worked on 3 to 4 companies. He was going to, my terminology, I know it's old terminology, I don't know what they call it now, but roll up and bring in with the data logic platform, which is AI, which is bringing in revenues and is a brilliant ad tech, martech platform for smaller, the half of businesses, the 60% of advertising revenue out there that isn't Amazon, that isn't Walmart. It's the smaller companies, but it allows them to compete, hate to say this word, on a level basis with the big boys. And I think those companies which were going to be announced simultaneously, my guess it's going to take 1 month to 3 months at a minimum. It could take longer to arrange all of those roll-ups, but it's coming. So my point is, if new executives that speak the lingo of ad tech and martech are in place, and then they come out with the vision, the narrative, and PowerPoints, and they talk to their institutional friends that they've had for years, and the story starts getting out where over the next 3 months, maybe it's longer, they're going to increase the annualized revenue of CAUD. I'm making it up, but on an annual basis, maybe by rolling up 3 or 4 companies, they get it to $200 million annualized. I'm making that up. But that story will get discounted to the present. And because of the credibility of the new people, you could see buying interest in the stock. You've got a major, in my judgment, short position. I'm not saying it's going to go to the moon, but maybe it goes. Look, there was a third-party valuation. It's in the SEC filing of what Data Logic was worth. And they went to the lowest part of the range at $114 million. If you use that number, and you can quibble with it, but if you use 114 million as the value of the Data Logic platform, which CAUD now owns, by the way, I don't expect the earnings in this recent quarter to be all that exciting. Why? They had to pay for the lawyers, they had to pay for the institutional financial advisors that ripped them off. They had to pay the costs to the SEC. I don't think it's going to be a particularly pretty quarter. But if these new people come on board and are able to talk about next year's earnings, having a good January, having a good first quarter, you could see the value which that 114 million translates to, even with the new amount of shares, translates to $7.50. That could happen very quickly. And it could go much higher. It could get to 10 or 15. And if indeed these sales of stock which do not exist have to be covered, it could get to 20, 25, $30 in a heartbeat. Maybe not stay there, but come back down. So I actually think in our stable of tired horses that CAUD might have a little giddy up under its saddle. But if you buy it, be prepared. Be prepared for the criminals to try to drive it under $1. Remember NASD, and be prepared that everything I'm saying might not happen until January, February, March. But I think it's coming. I think it's coming. So that's an interesting trade to me. I think Finger is a brilliant company to add positions to if you can just stretch your horizon now to a year and a half. Yes, this squeeze could happen at any time, but I personally have gone from sort of reading the tea leaves of the market and the price action and the volume, being extraordinarily on alert for a big run up, to now being very cautious because the stock isn't behaving like there's going to be a big spike anytime soon. But that could change overnight, as we've discussed. So I think Finger will have some languishing ahead over the next 6 weeks. Let me add it up. We're in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Over the next 6 weeks of tax loss selling potential. But next year, I think Finger has a bright future. So I think those are the two stocks. I'm intrigued by your stock, Brenda, MREO. I don't know anything about it, but it's behaving pretty well. Those are the two stocks I think I'm going to focus on. Logic, which is at 3 cents, is going to have another private company or something roll into its shell. It's possible that that'll be announced before the end of the year. But if I were Brent Sun, I wouldn't do it that way. The damage has been so severe and so overwhelming. I think I wouldn't make such an announcement into tax loss selling. Also, remember, Brent has the cream of the crop of companies to look at. And, deals, I guess, are like dating, although I never enjoyed dating. Or they're like, going through the baseball hot stove and looking for a match. Or they're like, I've got to go buy that car. Brett, God, he was left-handed. He was for the Kansas City Royals. George Brett, third baseman of the Kansas City Royals, told a story once about how his dad, when Brett was young, he wanted to buy a baseball mitt. It was in the window at the hardware store. And his father said, son, if you still want it in 2 weeks, I'll buy it for you. It might have been a bike, but Brett never forgot that. When he has an urge to buy something, he waits 2 weeks. My point is, maybe with the destruction of Logic's price, maybe with the time going by, maybe Brent Sun is seeing other deals. I don't know. But I just think Logic, which I was considering buying for a year-end trade, might be a better stock to buy in the last week. Maybe you can get it for a penny or 2 pennies. I think it'll have a nice January, February, March. There's a couple other stocks I'd like to talk about. after I do a little bit more research. But out of our, out of our stable, I think the one that has the best shot of going up sharply, potentially by year end, is CAUD. I think the one that is the best buy to buy now, to buy tomorrow, to buy at the end of the year is Finger. And you might be truly surprised at how quickly that story turns around. The rest, everything else, I think are stocks to buy in the last week of this year, the last week of December, hoping to get a really cheap price. And then I think they'll all, maybe all, and that might, if I get a, something that works, I might go through some of those stocks before year end and just say which ones, I'd be interested in buying. But I think a January effect, first quarter effect, just having the optimism of a new year might put some profitable trades ahead of us. Thank you, Steve Raven. Pecos Bill, Jenny L, how are you? Jenny L, I'm not back, just saying hello. Well, let's wish Jenny and I wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. Let me see this. What's this? Heath Roach? MREO? You see a price target of $4. Then that's an interest. Look, what I just read on MREO, they're in a field that, as you know, you can have suddenly dramatic returns. They have, although I don't know who this group is, but a group who's in this space has bought into the company. So you're riding on that group's due diligence and money. Thirdly, what I just read is they had, I think it's 50 million in US dollars they have, which they have enough funding to carry their overhead through 2026. So they don't have to go to the Jeff Eastons or the Kramers of Wall Street. And that's great. And to my eye, Brenda and Heath, it's trading at new highs in the face of all this, in the face of all these odds. So to me, new highs means new highs, and maybe it's time to let your winners run. So I like that, Heath and Brenda. I hope you see it. Jenny, Rebecca. We all have to say our prayers for Jenny L. She's strong, but she needs your strength too, and God's strength. So don't forget to pray for Jenny L and her husband and her family. It's a manipulated stock. So no, they didn't give 4 million. They didn't give it. And I think the number was closer to 5, but you can look up the news, Chad. It was a convertible note. It was toxic. And that money led to what I see when the stock went to 9 last time. I saw over 100 million in downward selling volume without any covering. I've never seen any covering of size in the year since. And watching over the last 5 or 6 months, I think they sold another 100 million shares. So no, they didn't give it. That was the bait. That was the cover that the criminals could use to sell unlimited non-existent shares, Chad. But thank you for, I've been covering Finger, and I've never once talked about the financing that Lynn Partners and Philip Vallier, we are pleased to finance Finger Motion at this exciting time in their revenue growth. I've never brought it up. Without you, Chad, I wouldn't have known that. Bye, Jenny. Thank you for coming on. I know it takes a lot of energy, but it makes everyone happy to see you here. Yeah, the short sellers do it to the whole market. And Denver, wow, I have friends out in Denver. Michelle, what hopefully our band of brothers and sisters will know this, and we won't be moved by the propaganda and the falsehoods, and maybe it'll grow and we'll start holding our presidents accountable. And to whoever the gentleman was, I think the Biden presidency has been an absolute disaster. And I think we need to get out of the Biden presidency as soon as we can. And the answer isn't Kamala Harris. The answer isn't Newsom Gladsome. And the answer, they might try to bring in Hillary Clinton, but I think we have to get away from the Democratic Party. We'll Tuck T. I'll try to get Pecos Bill on, but let me see what he says. Pecos Bill says to Tuck T regarding Next Bridge update. Pecos Bill went down and looked over the property last week. Looks like they're continuing with 3 wells out there. I don't know if he means there's 3 rigs still there. The way I read that, there may be only 3 wells drilling or maybe producing. But if they're drilling those 3 wells, they still have those 3 rigs. And after they're done with the 3, they could move on. But I'm interpreting. Tuck T says, thank you very much. TPET is the oil stock to watch going into January effect. I'll write it down, Edward. I'll try to look it up. I think the lower, Edward, financing in the oil patch goes through cycles. I couldn't get anybody interested. There was a chance to buy directly into properties with good operators. That's gone now, I think. Then it goes into sort of joint ventures, and then it goes to buying into the stocks. And in my opinion, once you're buying the stocks, you've got to buy the top stocks first. Then it goes into the secondary. Then it goes into the tertiary. And then it goes into the quaternary and what is it? Quintiary? Quintile. So you can wait a long time in the smaller oil and gas stocks while the bigger ones reach full value. And then the money goes down, it waterfalls down. But when they start moving, the returns can be truly massive, 10x, 20x, and more. But I would look, Edward, at oil stocks that are trading $88 to $91, and in good companies, they'll go to 100 and they'll have dividends. And then some of the independents, and I think NextBridge will be one of those, make good investment. The micro caps might have to wait longer. Yamava Casino. Wow, I don't know where that is. Is that San Diego? Ooh. Ooh. That's depressing. I don't know. I'm not all that. I'm not going to go into that. Wow, P man, 137 is a good price. My dog, what's wrong? What's wrong, boy? What's wrong? Huh? What's wrong? I wish I had cash to buy more. I wish I had sold at 350 and we're buying now. But I'm hanging on. I think in the 18 months or so, maybe 2 years, I think it could be a $50 stock, ceteris paribus. But it also could be a nice whiplash trade. You pull the rubber band and it snaps back. I love that, Donna. You'll be in my prayers, Jenny L. Pecos Bill, Jenny L. God bless you, dear lady. Best wishes for you and yours. Man, if you could grow up and be like Pecos Bill, all of you young men. What was the result? Thank you, Mark, for bringing that up. I know you're trying to ask a question, but you want to highlight that it was a reverse split. Mark Maddox, you're taking that out of context and you're trying to do it to scare people and make the connection. I guess you might be one of the shorts, or maybe you just never saw my presentations, or my presentations weren't any good. I guess all of those things are possible. But Logic was 20 cents. Okay. Logic distributed its engine, its revenues. Logic, 20 cents, distributed Data Logic and into the Aubrey SPAC at a valuation of $10. I believe there were insiders, quislings at Aubrey SPAC. I think the investment advisor, Caudrum or something, that they used, and the two hedge funds are all in a criminal enterprise with their clients. They destroyed, through fraud, right in front of our eyes, the value. But anyway, they did that deal at $10. So Logic became all of the innards, the engine, the battery, the pipes and the electric and everything transferred to CAUD. So Logic became a shell company. It's a shell company. It's a shell company. So let me ask you something, Mark Maddox. You're another deep thinker. If Logic shell if the logic shell, Mark Maddox, has currently 147 million shares in it, 147, Mark. It was 105, so it's disappointing. Let me ask you something. If the criminals keep selling the stock downward with false shares, and coming, I wish I had the news story, but coming into the logic shell, a private company or a public company is going to buy the logic shell. What does it matter how many shares are in there? They're buying the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel. What does it matter? It's going to be a new co, NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange listed. And let me just use a number. I'll go high this time, Mark. I won't go low this time because the number I've heard is 70 cents. I think it's high, but let's just go high for an example. Oh, I got to use a different calculator because it's going to be a big number. Our part of that acquisition will be 102 million because of the shares. We have to divide that by an eighth. That's typically, Mark, what a shell will keep in the acquisition of the shell by another company. That's a $800 billion company. 800 billion, Mark. Let me ask you another question. If it's and I went high, you can use $500 million if you want, but an $800 million company, 800 million, $750 million. Let me ask you something, Mark. What does it matter how many shares are in the shell if a $750 million company buys the whole shell and then lists on NASDAQ or on NYSE? Nothing. Now, why would they reverse split it? Why? And the vote was positive in the affirmative. Shareholders voted. You could look it up, but I know you got other things to do. Shareholders approved a reverse split of 35 to 50 to 1. So, in other words, turning 147 million shares we'll use the higher number divided by 50 into essentially 3 million shares. Why would they do that? Well, you've got the shell that's being bought by a $750 million company, and they want to be on NASDAQ or they want to be on NYSE. Do you want to see them go on NASDAQ at 10 cents? Or do you want, Mark, them to have a chance to succeed? And in this case, let's say it's $750 million company divided by, it won't be 3 million shares outstanding. Let's call it 4 million. That's a $187 company. Let me do it again to make sure I didn't make a mistake. Let's call it 5 million shares. It's a $150 company. That's just an arithmetic exercise. I don't think that's the ratio or probably the amount of shares outstanding. I just did some arithmetic. It's a thought process. My point is, Mark, you're trying to get people to be scared of a reverse split. This is not a reverse split to maintain good standing with a toxic convertible financing firm like the criminals at Lynn Partners, in my judgment. This is about taking a stock that the criminals and necessity brought it to 150 million shares outstanding. Mark Maddox, what they're trying to do is the shell is going to be purchased if it's going to be better than the Privco. And if it's going to be cream of the crop, it's probably going to be worth $500 million in valuation, maybe as high as $1 billion in valuation. Mark, you can, when it's announced, I don't know what the company will be, you can confirm it with your own judgment. Do you really think it's worth $750 million? There'll be projections in there. There'll be revenue. There'll be customers. It'll be a different business. It'll be the same business. There's a lot of variables. I don't know. We, as Logic shareholders, will get 10 to 15% of that company, which will be our piece of the pie, our piece of the new shell being bought out. What does it matter that they do a reverse split? Do you want them to have 150 million shares at 10 cents? Or would you prefer that they have 5 or 10 million shares worth $75? I'm making up the numbers because I don't have enough facts. Mark, this is one case where the reverse split works in the favor of shareholders. So your attempt to bring up, I think it's your attempt to bring up a fear, uncertainty, and doubt will backfire on you. Where you should have some uncertainty is, I think now it's going to take longer than right away to have a new co that comes in and buys the Logic shell. But this is a very valuable item, very valuable, clean, publicly reporting, up to date in its reporting, no issues with the shell. This is valuable to companies which want to float and reward their teams. So I'm excited by it. And I think the reverse split is bravo, exactly the way to do it. Exactly the way to do it. Now, it hasn't been done yet, Mark. It hasn't been done yet. And it's my understanding that it was a requirement by this company that they've had in mind for a while to do it. Otherwise, they weren't going to do the split, but they weren't going to do the acquisition of the shell. But what if there's another deal out there that's even better than this one, and Brent decides to take that? It's going to involve 90 days at least, of course. But maybe there'll be no reverse split. Or maybe the reverse split won't be as onerous, or maybe they'll just buy the shell as is. Who knows, Mark? But thank you for your question. Yeah, Ryan, I think you make a pretty perceptive observation. When Mark Bazile represented HPIL and then VNUE, he filed against Kurt Kramer and Seth Kramer and that whole motley criminal crew, in my judgment. And at the end of the day, the guys settled. And the CEO's now in the one stock, it's seller boxed 0.00001. In the other, it's almost the same. So settling, for CEOs to settle with the criminals is cheaper for the criminals than having shorting. And the stocks will never recover in price. The criminals will take most of their money out of the accounts without paying taxes because there's no 1099. And as much as the CEOs work the companies will fail. So Kurt Kramer wins again. And this diabolical criminal racketeering scheme involves people like Kurt Kramer and Jeff Easton. It involves criminal sellers. It involves prime brokers, your broker dealer going along with it, and at a minimum, a Samuel and a sleep SEC and SEC chairman. But at worst, a complicit paid off SEC chairman, whether specifically defined or just in a vague promise of a directorship at Goldman Sachs or a Secretary of Treasury assignment. It's an awful thing. That's what's going on, Ryan. It's trillions of dollars these people are making, stealing, and not paying taxes on. I don't know how anyone defends it. And they break it down into pieces, just like certain people who argue. They'll argue on one little area. And once you focus on that area, you lose because it's the bigger picture you've got to look at. But Ryan, I think lawsuits work in the benefit of short sellers. There's no question about it. Thank you, Hoboken Sal. Rest-filled, peaceful, and wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you for your words. It's very kind. I need to hear those. Last night I turned off and I won't. I just felt kind of pain or hurt or uncertainty to the pit of my stomach. It wasn't great. I didn't think so well of myself. I thought very poorly of myself. Plantier, I've heard of. Let me look it up. I'm probably not going to be able to give you a good summary. I'm going to quit at 4:00. PLTR. Well, it's certainly not being short sold. The low on the year was just under 6. And again, it's trading towards its highs. They win a contract to create a data platform. That's pretty good. 600 million patient data management contract. Highest closing day. I would, Gabe, just looking at it quickly, that one gives me good positive vibes. Oh, it'd be amazing. I just amazed how amazing it would be if you could trade in Gary Gensler's level trading playing field, deepest markets, capital formation markets in the world. He's going to seek out fraud wherever it exists. He just blabs bumper stickers. He's a mouse, not a man. It would be. In the meantime, the greatest wealth transfer is going offshore and to the banksters. All right, 1 rig running, 2 more pads prepped. So they have 1 rig, 3 wells. I'm guessing that they drilled 3 wells to depth and did whatever they needed to do to, what do you call it? Perforate and maybe acidize. I don't know. And then they're drilling the 3rd well. They have 2 more pads to be prepped. Either this rig will then complete those 3 wells, or it'll go ahead and drill the other 2 and then come back and complete all 5 for production. That's what I would guess. And by the way, completion is that process of maybe they already completed each well as they went. I don't know. We'll have to hear from Pecos Bill. I think your question, Brenda, turns out on my initial examination of MREO, if it is manipulated, then I would be careful. But they've got the cash, they've got a good story, it looks like, and they're making new highs. So, Brenda, if you own it, if you buy it, take your money off the table quickly, and then anything that's left is house money, and see what happens. Prayers for Jenny and family from Born Free Films. That's terrific. I know he cares about crypto, and the reason he does, Trader Bob, is crypto is a threat to Goldman Sachs's monopoly to manipulate markets, to charge fees, to grift off the massive U.S. retail market and institutional market, and set up their bite, which can be small, of trillions of dollars that the Treasury and the Fed flood the markets with. That's why he's worried about crypto. Crypto can take control of these markets away from Goldman Sachs. Pumpkin. Hey, Mitchell Wong. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mitchell Wong. That's very kind of you. $5 is terrific. Bianca pled to charges today from not legal advice related to money laundering, terrorism funding as evidenced by bank secrecy violations. That could be like that. I don't know Bianca, but that could be like Alpine. It could be start of a trend. Oh, sorry. Binance. Binance. That's for finance spelled with the B. That's crypto. That's interesting. Good grease, Bill. I'm long logic. Bought it for 41 cents. All right. Okay. Sorry. That's Mark. I misunderstood. And there's so much here. But the way your question was written, it seemed designed to bring out the negative of the reverse split. I don't see where the reverse split helps us in any way. Well, in the case of the logic shell with the last deal, as I understand it, the prerequisite for the previous company, which is still very much alive, it's still with the lawyers, to purchase this shell is they wanted shareholders to vote for a 35 to 1, a 1 for 35 up to a 1 for 50 reverse split. Otherwise, the deal wouldn't get done. So that had a very clear benefit to shareholders. Why did they want it? They wanted it so that when they came in and owned the logic shell, they didn't have 147 million shares outstanding. And I don't know how many they'll have. I'm sure they already have a cap table. So they want to go to the NASDAQ. I hope they skip the NASDAQ, which is all fraud, and in my judgment, and go to the NYSE, which might be. But the NYSE, they have big boys playing the other side of the algorithms and the high frequency trading. So Mark Maddox, you don't see where it helps, but where it helps, one, it gets the deal done. Two, when you're on the NYSE, you don't want to have a cap table that looks like you have an Australian stock. You want it to be smaller, and that's why it's not a negative. Well, you don't know. One of the risks, we don't know who's buying. If a client of Jeff Easton buys this company, Shell, you know Jeff Easton and his criminals are going to drive it down, but they're not going to do that. Brent knows now for sure not to trust the smiling faces on Wall Street. So anyway, Mark, the reverse split was a requirement in my my ears tell me, to get this one company to buy the Shell. If he's looking at other companies, it might not happen anyway, and it might not bother the newco. Secondly, it is if you want to uplist from the over the counter to the NASDAQ, or more preferably to the NYSE, you don't want 200 million shares out there. You want 20, 30 million shares. That becomes a company that institutions are interested in. So I happen to disagree with you. I see where this benefits shareholders completely. And remember, whatever gamemanship they're doing right now, driving the stock price of the Shell downward, it's all in the ecosystem of the Shell. When the company comes and buys this, it's not going to matter. They're not seeking financing, the newco. They don't have to go to criminal firms like Lynn Partners, Power Up Lending, Yorkville Advisors, and etc. And they don't have to seek toxic dilutive financing from the hedge funds that rip them off. They're going to be $1 billion company or some level underneath it. They're going to have revenue. They're going to have earnings. They're going to have customers. They're going to have a technology, whatever it is. I think it's great news, Mark. And I guess my guess is that it could be this company we're talking about. They've already done so much work. But my guess is if Brent starts looking elsewhere, maybe others have come, it's going to be better than this company. So maybe they don't do the reverse split. But Mark, it's a discussion. This reverse split that has no meaning in this case, because the entire company is going to be bought. And then the Shell is going to start trading under the auspices of this new company. Whether they have 150 million shares out or 50 million out isn't going to change anything. It could be an $800 million company, NASDAQ or NYSE. It could be revenues in place, cash in place. It's a company. It's going to be a company looking for a clean shell. What does it matter how many shares are out? They can change that. As soon as they own it, they can change it. It's completely different, Mark, than when Power Up Lending or Jeff Easton or Yorkville Advisors issue a toxic note. In the note, written by shady attorneys, it says if you are delisted or you go under $1, then you're in default. Then the same smiling faces come back and say, well, what we recommend is you do a reverse split. How about you're at 25 cents? Why don't you do 50 to 1? And then you're comfortably above the dollar requirement, and we're on your side. We're here to help. Well, what it does, Mark, it allows the criminals whose proceeds from selling counterfeit shares, they're in the profit, but they can't take the money out because there's $2.50 or $5 requirement on that. Once, let's say it's 100 million shares they sold that don't exist. If they do a 20-for-1 split, it goes to 5 million shares. All of a sudden, on 95% of the stock, they no longer have a $5 maintenance requirement. All of that money can come out of the account, and they don't have to pay taxes. And that's why Jeff Easton gets kickbacks, and so do the rest of them. They're just fronts for this. That kind of reverse split is where then the criminals start selling the stock down from whatever, $5 back to 15 cents. They got another bite of the apple because they've freed up a lot of dry powder. That's a completely different situation than a company buying a shell and saying, you know what, we now own all these shares, and our stock is worth, our company is worth $1 billion, $750 million. So let's call it 175 million shares. So we'll call it 175. Ah, darn it. I broke my glass on my phone. All right, let me use a different calculator. Hang on. Let me use a different calculator. Just take a second to warm up. Okay, so we're a company worth $750 million. We just acquired a shell, including the stock that we bring to the game. There's 175 million shares outstanding. So that works out to $4 a share. Well, we, as a company, would like to go on the New York Stock Exchange, but we want to appeal to institutions. And in our experience, institutions want to see a $15, $20, $25 stock. How about if we do a what would that be? 35 divided by, sorry, I got to do a different way. How about we do a 1-for-5 reverse stock split, and then our stock's trading at 25 bucks? That kind of decision making, Mark, makes sense. They're under no pressure from the criminals. They're not in default with their toxic criminal financing, and they're trying to bring their $750 million company with revenues and whatever to the institutional market as a $25 stock rather than a $4 stock. That is in the advantage of every single shareholder out there. So I respectfully disagree with you. A reverse stock split in this context makes perfect sense. Anyway, I guess we disagree on that issue. I apologize for misunderstanding your tweet. I took it as a Fudster tweet. It was not. It was a legitimate question. So that's on me that I misinterpreted it. No, it's not your day to get dumped on. I get frustrated answering the same questions from the Fudsters. And if I misinterpreted who you are, that's my mistake. And I totally apologize for it. All right, I didn't describe it as well until now. Well, that's on me too. And as you can tell, logic is a bit complicated. Um, I, I mean, I'll be frank, Mark. I think the powers that be at ASPA had a year to roll this out properly. I think uh, uh, the new Coke did a better effort at rolling out their failed project. It leads me to believe that people involved with ASPA and or that New York Shadra, whatever it is, were complicit or in cahoots with the two hedge funds to rip us off illegally. That's my opinion. And it took a year, but it depending on your calculation, they took 60 million, my opinion, over 100 million out of the market, and they're not finished. And so kickbacks to the ASPA Quislings, if they exist, or to the so-called financing group, just liars in my judgment, by the hedge funds, the criminal hedge funds. That's easy to do. This is a lot of money. And you all and we all and me, we're inclined to always be gentlemanly or see the other side as a person, oh, don't hurt my feelings. But they're in here to destroy us. And so sometimes I get it wrong. And Mark, I got it wrong. And then my explanation on logic, maybe it's gotten better. I bet it's gotten better, but it's gotten simpler too, Mark. Once shareholders voted and once one logic was this, it was hard. Well, it's ASPA, shareholders are going to vote, they're going to do this distribution, and then they're going to do that. Now that's gone. That's gone. All that's left is a band of gold. All that's left, Data Logic is here in CAUD. I think they were projected to have 70 million in revenue on an annualized basis. I bet that's been delayed. I bet that's been damaged. I bet that's been hurt by the carnage, but it'll come. It'll come. They also had 3 to 4 companies to roll up into this de-SPACed company. I think the revenue could be 200 million. I think they have a goal to make this a $50 stock within 2 years. Can they get there? There's risks, but I think they got all the ingredients. But then Logic no longer has anything in it. It has a few shares of Go Logic. It's just a shell. So the shorts drive it down. Hey, it's a shell. Doesn't have anything in it. We're going to get away with this criminal collusion, this cooperating with each other, this market manipulation of prices, because Gary Gensler is on our side. He approves it. He's got our backs. So they drive the shell down, and the shell happens to have 147 million shares in it, but it really doesn't matter to the acquiring company. An acquiring company is going to come in and buy this. They're going to buy it. I think that acquiring company is going to be somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion. Why? Just by doing reverse arithmetic on a per share basis and using an eighth, I don't know what it'll be. It's a negotiation. 10%, 15%, 20% that comes to shareholders. It's got to be a big company. But those shares in the shell don't matter anymore. The company stands on its own 2 feet. They don't have to go to Jeff Easton and his smiling, lying face. They don't have to go to Sam Chung, who runs the finances at the place. They don't have to. Institutions will back it. This is an institute. This will be an institutional quality company just looking for a shell. And there's not many currently filing good quality shells out there. That's why they want it. The number of shares is a matter of indifference. Once they take over this shell, they can vote. They will own it. They can change the share. They might have to put it out as a vote, but collectively, we'll only own once they buy it. We'll only own an eighth. We'll have been crammed down. Our vote won't matter that much. So they can change the amount of shares. And yes, it'll be called a reverse split, but it won't have the criminal, toxic, destructive effect on the market cap that Gary Gensler allows. It will actually be done in a way that's beneficial to us. And I'm using an eighth. It's between 10 and 15%. The eighth that we're just riding on the back of new management, new company, new board, new idea. My recommendation, Mark, you can listen to the news story on whatever company comes into Logic, but my recommendation, not knowing who the company is, that might be a source of funds. And if it's 70 cents, I'm not saying it will be, maybe the stock only goes to 25, 30 cents as we all sell. But if the shorts realize they're in trouble and they scramble to cover, maybe it goes to 70 cents, $1, $1.50 in a trade. I do not expect, Mark, that that's going to happen this year. I could be wrong. I think something like that could be 90 days away. And Mark, I think Logic becomes a stock to buy in the last week of December if it goes on sale. In fact, I would argue it's already on sale at 3 cents. But there's a possibility it goes to 1 or 2 cents at the end of the year. It would be something I would have on my shopping list. Again, Mark, I apologize for overreacting to you. I was reacting to the shill. I don't know what to call him. And I obviously mistook you. I apologize for that. But I was directing my clarity of thought because I don't find those to be good people. They would steal from you and your children. If your child was standing with a brand new computer you gave her for Christmas, they'd steal it. That's how I feel about them. And sometimes I misinterpret who I'm talking about. My anger and sarcasm is directed at the scum who work with Jeffrey Easton and Sam Chung and collude at the Lynn Partners and the Kramers and Yorkville Advisors, Ionic even, although I got a letter from their lawyer, they don't short stocks at all. That lawyer needs to study what Ionic does as its business model. The companies on the Neo Exchange, the Riverside Advisors, Yorkville Advisors that destroyed Wolf. I mean, they're everywhere through the market. That's what I got upset with, Mark. And I apologize for misinterpreting who you were. I apologize for my words directed at you personally. The purpose of this shell to do a reverse split would be to get on the NASDAQ. You're right. And if they're doing that all by itself and nothing else changes, the criminals will drive it back down. But I don't have the news story in front of me, Skinny. Privco was the deal that Brent signed to come in to the shell contemporaneously with the D-SPAC of Aubrey SPAC into collective audience. That didn't happen because the criminals sold ASPA and stole the market cap of CAUD, it turned everything into a shit show. So it didn't happen. But and the other shorts sold off Logic's shell. But Brent had already let that Privco deal expire because he had better deals. That one was rumored at a price of 40, 50, 60 cents a share to our shares. Now, if it's better, that means it's got to be what, 60, 70, 80 cents if it's better. But in the meantime, the outstanding shares went from 105 to 147. So I've been relatively subdued on this better, and I figured start at 40 cents. But again, today I heard that it could be as much as 60, 70, 80 cents per share because he may be, I don't have confirmation, he may be looking at alternatives to this company they've been working on over the last days. And I know that the lawyers had signed off on the agreement. But in the meantime, all this calamity went on. And I think because Brent is the guy who introduced Univest, Brent is seeing deal flow. We are coming to the end of the year. The IPO market still is in trouble. I bet Brent is now seeing other women, and his fiance maybe isn't. It's not that he's given up on his fiance. It's just that, hey, pitter patter. She's kind of fit. She's kind of the girl I've been looking for. She reminds me of the girl that married dear old dad. And so in that case, Skinny Whale, if there is a new buyer of this shell, yes, they're not going to want to be an over-the-counter stock. They're going to be, just to do the reverse numbers, I think they're going to be an $800 million company in valuation. Now you can, give me a wide leeway on that. Maybe it's $500 million, maybe it's $1 billion. But $800 million, they're not going to want to be in the shit show of the over-the-counter market. My guess is they're not going to even want to be on the corrupt cahoots with the option market makers and the swap contracts, NASDAQ criminal markets as well. They're not going to want to be there. I bet they want to be on the NYSE. And yes, exactly, Skinny. The reason they would do a reverse split is because to go to the NYSE with 150 or 200 million shares outstanding would translate in a low per share price. And Skinny, it's not just NASDAQ. On Wall Street, Merrill Lynch brokers, Wells Fargo brokers, and the rest won't let their retail clients buy stocks pretty much. They just direct it to asset managers. But if they buy stocks, $10 is usually the minimum that the stock has to be. Most stockbrokers will not recommend a $10 or $15 stock. And institutionally, that's a hard, fast rule, $10 or $15. So one of the reasons that $1 billion market cap company is going to go acquire Logic and then take it over and do a reverse split is so they can be attractive to institutional investors. $25, $40 a share, $1 billion market cap, revenue out the wazoo, profitability, and here's our growth pattern, and we're seeking to raise $50 million at $40. That's why, Skinny Whale. That's why. I'm sorry you guys have to see the armpit of of the markets where the criminals run it. And they have law firms who love the lucre of this criminality and make them look like they are bona fide Wall Street types. They're just fronts for criminals. All right, I'm going to try to finish up because I got to go walk my dog. Yeah, I agree, Mark. Thank you, Juice. Palantir is an AI data collection company. Wow, that has a future. Government defense work too. That's from Not Legal Advice. That sounds like something to look into. MKC, Dead Day Dallas. Yeah, it's Groundhog Day, only it's not a comedy. Oh, with PayPal, Not Legal Advice says. That's probably a good stock. I don't know what their financing is. I tried to answer that question, so I'm going to move on. Why hasn't the financial... They have. I went in front of that committee and sat with Anna and Sada Aman and a couple of guys I'm not sure that they want me to say, and LT I think was there, and then a woman that I'm not sure I have permission to say. But we all sat and watched. And they, on the Republican side, they went after Gary Gensler. Maxine Waters had a sourpuss look on her face, and the Democrats protected the SEC and Gary Gensler, and they had never had a hearing. Part of it is, Gabe, nobody understands this. And by the time I present it, even I get distracted on some issue. That's how these people fight. When you go to Congress, they send a professor to lie. They have Jim Cramer lie, saying, "Oh, it's a caveat emptor." They have that meme story narrative, and that we are somehow greedy. Now it's an uphill battle. A vote from GTII. I didn't get that email. So TJP, respectfully, I don't know what to say, but it will keep going. We'll keep going and see if somebody else. Happy Thanksgiving, Not Legal Advice. Happy holidays, David. I hope you enjoy it with your family and football and in-laws. I hope you enjoy your in-laws. Thank you very much, Dos Equis. Same to you. I don't know where McDonald's is trading now, Jason, but I think McDonald's was $50 then. $50. 57, something like that. That's not true. Frank McLean, a reverse split doesn't do any damage to your asset. If there's 100 million shares at $1, there's $100 million that the criminals want at their prime broker. in a normal situation, they probably have $250 million on collateral against the 100 million shares they sold at $1. Okay. They get it down to 5 cents. And it triggers a clause in the company's document with Jeff Easton that says you're in default. And Jeff comes to him all smiles. Well, we've had a look at it. Why don't you do a reverse split? Why don't you do 20 to 1? You're at 5 cents now. Well, wait a minute. That might not work. Yeah. Let's just use 20 to 1 to be simplistic. And Jeff Easton says, my legal team suggests you do a 21 to 1 stock split. We'll be there to support you. You'll no longer be in default, and you'll be on NASDAQ. So they do a 20 for 1 stock split. So the 100,000 shares becomes the 100 million shares, sorry, Frank, becomes 5 million shares at $1. It equals 5 million market cap. Well, the 100 million at 5 cents equaled 5 million market cap. So, Frank, they drive the 100 million shares down from $1. They have 100 million sitting in their account that they can't have access to. In fact, it's probably 250 million because it's a maintenance requirement of $2.50 a share, which is the rule. But maybe they don't have to follow the rules. But they've driven it down to 5 cents. They've taken the market cap from 100 million down to 5 million. They do a reverse split, 1 for 20. There's 5 million shares at $1. It's still the same 5 million market cap. But look what happens, Frank. So, Frank, the criminal hedge fund, by reducing the number of shares from 100 million down to 5 million, that the hedge fund has to maintain its maintenance requirement at the prime broker, the $250 million maintenance requirement goes down to 12,500,000. This is 237,500,000 to the good for the criminals. Of that, 95 million is a profit, and they don't have to pay taxes on it. They just take that money out and they just keep the pressure on the stock. This is all tax-free, 95 million. That's why they do the criminals recommend a reverse split to their corporate clients. Now, Mark, in your case, you average down. I don't know. Let's say you bought 1,000 finger. No, let's use a different. I don't want to use finger as an example. Frank, you're wrong. When you average down, that's a per share price, but it's also the amount of shares. When the company does a reverse split, I mean, I just used the example of 100 million shares at $1. If it goes to 5 cents, the market cap is 5 cents. If they do a reverse split and they only have 5 million shares out and it's priced at $1, it's the same thing. A reverse split doesn't change anything. Where the criminality comes in is they want to get a release of this $237 million, of which 95 million is profit. That's why they do it. And it's a fleecing that goes on under Gary Gensler's nose. I lost LGIQ. Created was also a scam. Well, I'm not sure it was a scam. Created went up. It was $1.50, and they had a buyout offer on Created from GTII at $3.30 a share in stock, admittedly. The whales at GTII were invested in CRTD, and the criminals were attacking both. Remember, Frank, CRTD took money from Jeff Easton and from Kurt Kramer. So the scam, you're wrong. There's no question that the criminals destroyed the market caps in those companies. But I think the CEO is an honorable, hardworking guy, smart. But his weakness is he trusts Jeff Easton. He believes in Jeff Easton, I think. So what Created did is they struck a deal to be sold for $3.30. Jeremy Fromner tried to rework the deal. Jeremy Fromner was going to be CEO of the company. GTI walked away. So as soon as that happened, the stock went from 150 to 30, a lot of cents. A lot of sellers got out then, and now you have a stock at a penny. I don't think it's a scam. I think the criminals at the Lind Partners and the short seller criminals behind it and at Power Up Lending are continuing to sell that stock. Why, Frank? Because CRTD needed capital. The blind spot of Jeremy Frommer to not believe this was going on, and Jeremy Frommer's belief in his own story has kept him working. But I take disagreement with you. It wasn't a scam, and I suggest you sell Vocal now and buy it back in the last day of the year. You could lock in your losses, or double your Vocal now and sell the loss half at the end of the year. But Jeremy Fromner is fighting the shorts. He's doing everything he can raise money creatively. He tried to go on upstream, which was the kibosh was put on that by the SEC. That wasn't a scam. The problem with CRTD, in my judgment, is when Jeremy turned down the buyout at $3.30 of GTII, which he would have been the CEO. He asked two questions. What does GTII have? And then he said, I want to get all the hot money out of my stock. Well, he's done that. And with time, GTI has sold back down. I think it was, I can't remember. You could look it up. But I think the 330 would probably be worth about $1 to $1.50 a share now, based on the current price. So I don't think that's a scam. I think that's a bad decision by the CEO, because he didn't recognize that the smiling friend he has with Jeff Easton is just a front for criminal destruction of market caps. Okay, so that's Vocal. By the way, Frank, I lost a shitload of money in Vocal. It was called Created. The stock was $1.50. I called in on that Friday and I said, guys, it doesn't look like this deal is going to happen. Oh, yeah, it's happening. The whales are all for it. Jeremy's for it. GTII's for it. It's going to happen. Just wait. Well, that afternoon, Jeremy decided to ask for $5 instead of $3.30. And in fairness to Jeremy, I think he wanted some cash up front, because that's the risk of Vocal. They have a burn rate. Anyway, the deal fell apart, partly because the criminals drive the stock price down. The destruction that the criminals have, when two CEOs agree a deal, the criminals start selling the prices down to bust the deal. That's not a scam. That's the effect of criminals, Frank McLean. But if you think it's a scam, that's how you see it, sell and get out. My suggestion to you on Vocal, let me see where it's trading. I guarantee you I lost more money in CRTD than you did. And I bought Vocal back, I don't know, 5 months ago, and I'm losing on that. But I'm not going to sell. Okay. I'm probably not going to sell because, well, I might. I have to look at it. I've got 5 or 6 days to look at it. Sell now and then buy back at the end of the year. But Vocal's at a penny. And so Jeremy achieved his objective of getting the hot money out. He achieved his objective of breaking the deal with GTII, where he would have been the CEO and had the full cooperation of the whales. And I think he achieved his objective of remaining friends with Jeff Easton. And I don't know that for sure, but I don't think he sees Jeff Easton as the slime dog criminal face that Jeff Easton is. But let me just see if there's any news. Vocal can't do anything on upstream. Vocal still has a burn rate, and Vocal is raising money creatively, Frank. But I strongly suggest that, I don't know how many shares you have, but if you bought 100,000 shares of Vocal today, it cost you $1,000. In 31 days, sell your original amount. That way you'll still be in the stock the whole time, and take your losses. Those losses will be valuable to you. Or just sell Vocal now and buy it back in 31 days. I don't think it's going up. I don't see anything for any of these stocks, any reason why over Thanksgiving, over Christmas, over New Year's, and going into bonus season, that the criminals aren't going to just apply the pressure. So I totally disagree with you that it was a scam. It was a successful fraud perpetrated by Jeff Easton, Sam Chung, and the Lin partners and their criminal clients. And in this case, it also had 2 notes to the criminals over at Power Up Lending. Now, Logic. Let's see if you lost money on Logic. I lost money on Logic. Stop trading, Frank. Get out of the market. You're going to lose in the short run. Do you think every stock you buy you're going to get in right at the time and it's just going to go up. I'll tell you what, if you get into a stock and it just goes up, you're not going to sell because you're going to think it's going to keep going. You got to trade. But let's look at Logic. I don't know what you paid for Logic. These are the prices I remember paying for Logic. 33, 28, 22, 20, 18, 16, and 15. I'm just going to use, for me, 20 cents. But I'm also going to use that, Frank, with your drama on Logic. Right now, Logic is selling at 0.029, the shell. And that's a source of tax loss harvesting, as I've described. I'm not going to go through it again. You could either buy double your position now and sell the original at the end of the year, or just sell it now and buy the original at the end of the year, or just sell it. I mean, those are the three choices to harvest tax losses. Okay, so the shell's trading at 3 cents essentially. And then CAUD is trading, damn it, at $1. The bid is $1.38. Okay. Gotta. Yeah, you are down in Logic. And I am too. The shell's trading for 3 cents. CAUD is trading for 5 cents. So we're down 12 cents on Logic. I am anyway. I don't know what you paid. So now you're going to just say it's all a scam. The fraudsters are right. The counterfeiters are right. It's all a scam. And even though you were told that this is what we're fighting, it's all a scam. Well, my suggestion to you, sell Logic, sell Vocal, and get out of the market. There's a tremendous ETF, and I'll look up the symbol. It's issued by, I think, BlackRock. It's an income trust, and it's paying 9%. I think that's where you should put your money. You shouldn't trade these stocks anymore because there's a concerted effort by the criminals to destroy the market cap. This just happened with Logic, and in the last 2 weeks, I've lost a lot of money in it, but I'm not selling. Frank, I'm not going to go through it again. But the Logic shell is going to be bought by somebody, and it's going to be worth, according to my information, 70 cents a share. But you don't want to wait. You just want to focus. I lost. I don't want to hear any story. The stock says it's down. I lost. Okay. Yeah. Warren Buffett says when you buy a stock, you should plan on holding it. I'm paraphrasing, as long as you would hold a house. Okay. That could be worth 70 cents a share to you, or some fraction of it. I bet you could get 20 cents out of it. CAUD, I've described that they're going to announce their CEO and their COO soon, I think. They've brought an extremely talented person to the board, Elizabeth Menji. I don't want to say her name, but used to work on Bloomberg. Just tremendously skilled, creating value. She's on the board now. They're fighting the shorts. There's a big short position, but you want to say it's a scam rather than it's the criminal attack. Whatever. I'm tired of fighting it. If you see it as a scam, I'm here to tell you it's not, but go ahead and sell and move on. Those tax losses that you harvest will be worth a lot of money to you, particularly if you own MMTLP or Nexbridge. Hey, Jennifer. I don't want to end up holding 25 or 35 less at a higher price to watch the price drop. Well, you're talking about the effect of a reverse stock split when the criminals are involved. And I just don't know how to explain it better than I got to think of a better way of explaining it. When the criminals are involved, like Jeff Easton's hedge funds and the criminal, in my judgment, contracts that Jeff Easton writes, when they're in default and they have to be on the NASDAQ, otherwise they're in default, they reverse split and then the criminals keep selling. I don't know, Mark, I don't know. There's something wrong with how I'm explaining this. But now, after the shareholder vote, you've got CAUD and you've got Logic. Logic is going to be bought. It's not going to exist anymore. It's going to be purchased by $1 billion company or a $500 million company. And by comparison, the market cap in CAUD right now, or Logic right now, let's just go with Logic. These concepts must be so hard to understand, or I'm just a complete idiot at explaining them. They're just second nature to everybody I deal with. I don't realize that to people, they're hard concepts. All right, so Logic's market cap, according to Yahoo Finance. So this will be $1 billion market cap company versus Logic's market cap right now of 3 million. So you're worried that let me just tell you something else, Mark. They're not going to do the reverse split before the company buys the shell. It's in the document that the vote you took. I guess you didn't read it, but the reverse split was if this company they've been working with so long, number one, it's a mandatory requirement, but number two, the reverse split was going to happen simultaneously with the acquisition. I don't know if Logic is going to allow itself to be bought by that same company, because my understanding is 2 or 3 other hot chicks are standing at the bar wearing leather and blue velvet. And while the dance that Brent's been in with this company has gone on, his eyes can't help but see that they're kind of pounceable. So I don't know who the company's going to be, but Mark, I think it's going to be bigger than this one, or at a minimum this one. But when the reverse split goes into place, it's when the company has bought the effing shell. They're not going to reverse split the shell so the shell can get destroyed more by the seller. They're not going to do that. But even if they did it, it's not going to change the net effect to you. The amount of shares that are in the shell, whether there's 105 or 150 or 200 or a billion, it's not going to change the fact that when the buyer comes, they buy the entire shell. You and I, Mark, get our pro rata share of, I think, an eighth. It could be 15% or 10%. We get 10% of $1 billion in market cap. Well, how many ever shares that the criminals sell out there, the amount of shares is still going to be 150,000, but we're going to get 12.5%, regardless of what destruction they've done. If the stock goes to half a penny, the divisor is still going to be 147 million shares. The shell is not going to take a financing. The shell is not going to issue more shares. Whatever games the reindeers play isn't going to matter. There's only going to be 147 million shares in the shell. I'm getting to the point, if you don't see it, you don't deserve it. Okay, my calculator, I got to go to this calculator. So if, Mark, just for simplicity, you can cut $1 billion in half. But if it's $1 billion company, you can cut it in half if you want to. And there's 147 million shares outstanding in the shell. That's not going to change. Or at least it won't change materially. That's $6.80. You don't want to average down because you don't want it to end up holding 25 to 35 fewer shares at a higher price to watch it drop. Mark, the reverse split is going to only happen. And by the way, it's only if this company goes. That's what the vote was. If it's a new a different company, they'll have to come to us for a different vote if they even do. But when the company gobble comes and buys the shell, then the reverse split will happen. The reverse split is not going to happen while the shell is trading at a penny. It's all going to be part and parcel at the settlement. It might even happen after the shares are bought. But if it's $1 billion company, that's $6.80. If it's $500 million, it's $3.40. Now that's the price of the shares of the company. What we get is much less. We will get an eighth of that. So it's 85 cents. It's 85 cents to us because we will own collectively an eighth of the newly publicly traded company, which will be trading at $6 a share without a reverse split. Without a reverse split. Wouldn't you feel safer if they did a reverse split of 1 for 5 and they got it to $30? And it's $1 billion company with revenues and institutional following. All right, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'll take responsibility. I'm obviously not explaining it well. But Mark, your analysis, your fear there is just that. It's a fear. It's not reality. Yeah, finger just keeps going down. It's just we are better off investing in crypto. I agree. Go find the crypto stock that's going to go up. It seemed to me that Bitcoin just went straight up, never had a correction. Seems to me that there's some Bitcoin that's gone out of business. But I agree with you, Dave Allen, is go trade crypto. And I want to follow. I already said the one I liked the best out of all of the things I heard. And it turns out that Lou's already told you that. So my analysis is worthless. But I didn't know he had done it, but I happen to agree with Lou on the recommendation. But yeah, go trade crypto. I think the stock market is entirely fraud. And I think you should get out of the stock market. And I don't think any of us should be buying these piece of shit stocks. This is where Jeff Easton makes fortunes. Do you know there's a shareholder in FNGR who made $400 million criminally shorting MULN? That's what I heard. It's a rumor. Dave, go, please do crypto. What happens to finger and fruit if we have a market correction? I don't know what would happen to fruit. I assume as long as the airlines still fly, fruit will come to the grocery stores and the truckers truck. Finger, if we have a market correction or crash, right now, if it happened now, I don't think anything will happen. Right now, interweb pleb, the Fed and the Treasury are flooding the market with cash to save the banks. So I think any liquidity problem the banks have are being temporarily pushed down the road. War in the Middle East, and I believe we've declared war on Iran. We've come as close as declaring it as you can, maybe without quite saying it. And war in the Ukraine give us abilities to print trillions of dollars, which go into the financial system. So I don't think right now, even if you had a market correction, and I'm not convinced there's going to be one, I actually think the market will rally by year end. The market has disconnected from reality because the Treasury and the Fed buy 7 stocks and they drive it up. But I think in that case, finger may not have a reaction. Now, your thought process is good. Eventually, when the banks go down, finger will go up. The Democrats, the Treasury, Gary Gensler, Goldman Sachs, they want Joe Biden to get reelected. Everyone in power in the government wants Joe Biden to get reelected. He's done such a great job keeping us out of war, keeping inflation low, keeping our economy booming, and man, he's done a great job in racial relations, intergender relations, with schools, with cities. I mean, the guy is you got to admit it. He's the best president we've ever had. And so they want to get him across the finish line for the convention. In my opinion, as soon as he's nominated at the convention, all those super delegates led by Bill Clinton are going to vote Hillary Clinton in. And then I think Hillary Clinton will be our president because I think there'll be in our voting system, the voting system will experience what goes on in the over-the-counter and the NASDAQ markets. And I think Hillary will be our next president. After that is accomplished, I think then you may see the final give up on the market. Thank you, Mark, for your forgiveness. I appreciate it. I really do. I already answered that. Ham is always, I think he should have a good impact. We could get a squeeze this year. I'm just telling you guys, the market doesn't feel like these stocks are going up. I felt like Finger was showing in the market where it doesn't feel that way right now. Am I wrong? Very possibly. It can change sentiment, as Jack McCarthy used to say, Lord Abbott funds, sentiment can change on a dime. And he'd say it in his Boston accent. And it can. You could wake up tomorrow and Finger is $15. I don't think the market is telling me that. I think the next 6 weeks are tax loss selling and the criminals pile on. That's my opinion on all the stocks. I'm not focusing on just one. The one stock I think has a chance, the one Brenda brought up, MREO, and the one that not legal advice came out of PayPal, Plantier or something. Those look interesting. But I think CAUD, out of all of them, CAUD might, I'm not promising it, I'm not predicting it, but it has a setup where it could have a snapback rally and you could trade out of it. There might be an upside trade in CAUD over the next 4 to 6 weeks. I think all of our stocks, all of them, are going to have a great potential for upside moves January, February, March, a January effect. I think all of our stocks might have great Black Friday specials in the last week of trading in the year. I don't know when they report earnings. But I know you're busy, so I will look it up. The David, the last Finger Motion report on earnings came out on October 16th, 2023. So if I had to guess, you add 90 days to that. Now there may be reasons why that October 16th itself was delayed, but just using 90 days, they reported second quarter earnings in October, on October 16th. So first quarter is January, February, March. Second quarter is April, May, June. So they actually reported it in October. That seems like quite a delay. But if you use that same lag, 90 days from October 16th is November 16th, December 16th, January 16th. My best estimate, with the caveat that this seems like this was late, is that you'll see earnings in the middle of January. Don and my partners, Junior and Not All Right, deliver VIP Zoom call at 5 p.m. All right, I hope everyone goes over there at 5. That's MKC, Don and my partners. My average went from 4. It was 30. What's this? My average went from 4. 9 to 1. I don't know what stock you're talking about. I don't know what stock you're $4. It was 30. Anyway, I've spent a lot of time explaining how the criminals abuse reverse splits. But there are times when reverse splits make sense particularly when you're formulating a new company. You're acquiring a shell. You're a $1 billion company that doesn't trade. You're acquiring a shell. You want to be on the NYSD. You don't need capital from Jeff Easton. You don't need capital from Power Up Lending. You have your own cash. You have revenue. You reverse split because no institution's going to buy a $5 stock, a $4 stock. They'll buy a $25, $40 stock. Anyway, I don't know ALPP. I'll look it up, but not. I'll look it up later. It must be like explaining cost accounting or Econ 101 to a literature major, because I'm not getting my point across. Yeah, I would like to have money. I'd like to have money in NextBridge, and we might get another chance. Let's see, the high average. Yeah, I'm terrible at selling. Is the most difficult thing. Selling is the most difficult thing. I've made money, but I was blindsided by what I consider a truly bad decision by Jeremy Frommer not to take the deal, please the whales, and become CEO of GTII. But he didn't believe in the short squeeze. He didn't believe Jeff Easton was screwing him. He wanted to get the hot money out. But having said all that, I respect Jeremy Frommer. We all make bad decisions. I think he's hardworking. I think he's honest. I think he's got a lot of integrity, and he's not going to quit. So, thank you, Mark. But I lost money in that deal. I lost money 2 months ago when I was down with that stupid truck and that stupid interview. Where are you? 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 Get here, get here, get here. Where are you? Where are you? Everybody starts calling. Are you alive? Are you alive? And then I did the interview, took him to lunch, and the criminals got the stock down on that last trading day, $3. So they took a lot out of my hide that day. And then my brokerage firm screwed me too. So it was that was me looking out for him and the community instead of looking out for myself. I should have just said, no, I can't do it, and sat at my computer. But you can't trade if you're not trading, right? So that was a bad trade. And then Logic, I'm still in it, but I cannot predict fraud. I think Logic at 20 cents, we had 8 to 10 to 12 times our money on the table. I still, to this day, do not understand how the powers that be at ASPA, they had a year to get that ready. Instead, they did the worst job ever. And I think it's because they're in cahoots with the criminals. Maybe not all of them, but there's one of them, at least at ASPA, who's in cahoots with the criminals, in my opinion. Yeah, they all are. Don Fizz has big news. Please go. It's 512. Go to it. I didn't want to be there this long. Thank you, Born Free Films. Let's go, Brandon. 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 All right, I think I'm near the end. It's past 4. I need to go. I know. I got to walk my dog. How strongly do I feel about GTII? I think GTII is held prisoner by what happens with Finger. So right now, I think GTI is down because Finger's down. But once the animal spirits come out as Finger runs, I think GTII will run. I think GTII faces the same year-end tax loss selling pressure that MULN, MMAT, CLNV, I don't know, fill in the blank. All of them, all of them. I don't see any magical thing happening in GTII by the end of the year, but it could. That's the problem with GTII and Finger. You could get a thunderclap at any time that's good for us. Sonics. All right, I'll look it up. I don't see any good in that. I'll look it up, but not now. I don't see any good in what you wrote. Yeah, I agree, Jeff. All right. I'm sorry to Mark if I upset. I don't mean a half-assed apology. I'm sincere. I'm sorry to Mark. I can't wait till something's good and we can talk about other things. I'm all for crypto trading. I think the markets are totally corrupt. You know, when you sit down at a poker table, according to Jason Bourne, who's narrating, he says when you sit at the table, if you don't know it within 20 minutes who the sucker is, it's you. We are the sucker in the markets. The corrupt lawyers are against us. The corrupt market makers are against us. The corrupt smiling faces like Jeff Easton are against us. His corrupt clients are against us. The corrupt SEC is against us. The useless FINRA and NASDAQ and OTC markets are against us. And even your broker dealers are against us. The general lethargy are against us. There are no journalists anymore. It's a silly battle to enter. It's just completely silly. What was unique about GTI and Finger, we had one trap short. And what you got to be wary of is over time, they may have gotten control of the situation, but we'll see. I'm not going to take a break, but I don't have any plans over Thanksgiving. What's my take on GME? I don't know anything about GME, but I think GME and AMC both. There's a good guy out there, and maybe I'll get him. I'll ask him if he'll come on an interview. He follows these. He does great videos. But my opinion, GME and AMC, the criminals have under control. You might see minor rallies that you can trade downward. They do. As soon as it rallies a bit, they crush it back down, and they're making profits on it. I think GME should be a source of tax loss selling, and so should AMC. I don't think you'll ever see a squeeze like you saw before. But I'm a minority view on that. I think there's better squeeze candidates out there, but I'm even going to tell you maybe we should stop looking for the squeeze candidates and just invest on fundamental grounds. Maybe Wall Street has gained control of the narrative. I don't know, Augustine. But the fraudsters have tremendous criminal power, and Gary Gensler criminally supports them, in my judgment. I think everything is being illegally pummeled. I agree. I bought more Finger at 402. I think that's great. Average of Finger down. I think that's great. Next year, I can teach you how to sell calls against it. But for right now, AMC as CEO is a bully. He's also crooked. He's probably paid off. Bullies usually have an internal incongruence. There's a different word for it. But anyway, I'm not thinking clearly. Greg McCabe, Don, JR, Jenny K met with high level, no details. McCabe wanted them to deliver. Hey, go on it and re-listen to it, MKC. Please go to MKC. I don't know how you find them on X, but you can find Junior. You can find Jen K. I don't know if Greg McCabe is on X, but you can find out what they're thinking. It's always possible they'll sign a preliminary settlement agreement. Okay, I'm gonna wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I'll probably be on tomorrow, but maybe not. But I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Our prayers, my prayers, go out to Jenny L. and her family, her husband, and her children, and to her specifically. I pray that heaven comes down and supports her. I pray for peace around the world. I pray for peace for all of the little children, the babies in all war zones, regardless of religion, regardless of color, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of wealth, regardless of their parents' mistakes. I pray for peace around the world because we can't afford a ratcheting up to World War III. And I wish each of you peace, love, and happiness, and a truly warm, generous, and sustaining, but more than that, fulfilling Thanksgiving with your dogs and cats and family and children and friends. And let me just see what everybody, yeah, that's it, Mark. That's it, Mark. Rob S. from Scotland. Hey, guess what's happening, I think, on Thursday? Djokovic is playing in the Davis Cup against Britain, I think. I think it's Thursday. Then Friday they play against the other winners, and then there's a semifinal Saturday and a final Sunday. No points involved, but I'll be watching the Joker until he loses. Anyway, cheers, and we'll probably see each other tomorrow. All right, catch you later.